Hello and welcome to Nick V Uncensored. Today we've got Clayton Thomas, and today we're going to be talking about the beautification of timelines, the split of consciousness. The awakening has begun. It's been like this for a while, and now you're seeing a split of two consciousness happening in one time. And again, the acceleration is going to occur even more so when we take back responsibility internally, decalcifying the pineal gland and connecting inside, because when we connect inside, our consciousness projects the thinning of the veil. Clayton, thank you so much for joining me. How are you, and what have you been up to?
Bro, it's been Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Thank God we made it through 2025, right?
Right.
Now, and numerologically, we go from a nine to a one. Energetically, we get to get rid of the past. And like you said, the veil's being lifted. And we got to go visit Londonistan for Boxing Day, as you have the picture behind you. So yeah, it's been refreshing to see the new year. But where we sit now, like you were talking about, of um, we've had 5 years of data and experience to where some are becoming more aware, right? There's awareness before an awakening, and the that awakening process is just that. It is a process, right? It's not something that you wake up and go, "Oh yeah, I'm awake now." I was like, no, no, no. There's some things that have to be done, both physically, spiritually, psychologically, and emotionally, because they're all connected.
Yeah.
And not just thinking, like we were talking about before we got on here, the concepts of like talking to kindergartners
Yeah.
versus talking real bioscience engineering, right? And that's one of the big things for me this year, is trying to educate people on the disconnect from, okay, last year we were talking about being a biohacker and this whole hacking thing, but we're talking about the most advanced spiritual, right? Because we're soul guided, right? This quantum computing system that is divinely created and divinely guided, that is in this transformational phase of being this amazing energetic liquid crystalline matrix that is much more complex than what a hacker can do. You need, if we're looking at it from a computer standpoint, you have hackers that are like, oh, I made a prompt on Chat GPT and I'm amazing. And then you have the bioscience engineers or systems engineers in tech that have actually created the entire data fabric systems that run Japan, or that run Bay Microsystems, or that are running OpenAI, right? These are not hackers, right? These are people with a level of expertise that are beyond the comprehension of the people that are just like, oh, I'm hacking, I'm doing something. That same level of technological expertise, but also intellectual and spiritual expertise, are what's crucial when we look at programming and reprogramming this operating system. That's what that one's for.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the way I see it is, there is definitely a shift in, the Earth, Mother Earth is raising its frequency. It's going through a change. And because we're part of the Earth, we're also going through that change as well, consciously and physically. And the way I see the split is right now is, imagine the Earth represents a radio, a box, a radio. And the timelines or the frequencies represents a radio station. Well, right now, I feel like we're in the middle, where you turn the nozzle a little bit, and we're in between two radio stations. You can hear the fuzziness in the middle, and you can hear both radio stations at the same time. But I think we're leaning more towards the higher frequency radio station. And those, right now, we can still hear the other radio station, the old radio station. And there are two split in consciousness, where people are anchoring in their egos and fear. And there's other people that are anchoring themselves into internally, into peace and calmness and love and truth. And we can see everyone right now. And that's why I think there's a lot of deaths happening around us. Random deaths, random car accidents, random illnesses, because we are seeing souls exiting and continuing the old radio station, the old timeline frequency, while those people experiencing truth and love are going to experience the collapse of the old system. And the systems of control will not be able to exist in the new radio station. And that's what's happening. And this isn't about judgment, it's resonance. It's whatever you're resonating on. What do you think about that, Clay?
Your level of British eloquence intrigues me greatly, and you're so dead on in these when you look at Schumann resonance, right? And when you look at the electromagnetism that comes from that which our creator created to create us from, for us to live in and on and through, because we're all bioelectrically connected as humans, as my favorite philosopher and researcher and scientist and wife wrote in her first book, in Cure the Causes, that we're each an imperfect piece to a perfect puzzle, right? We are we are a bioelectrical antenna,
Hmm.
right? Our pineal gland connects us to our primary source, but our bodies in general, through our aura, our chakras, our doshas, our meridians, all are a bioelectrical mechanism that's connecting us back to the environment, right? And we're made that way. And when you look biologically, we are our soul is that spiritual component. The physical aspect that makes us up. We are made from the environment that we live in, right?
Yeah.
It's the beautiful part of understanding the operating system. So when you look at the radiological aspect of this planet and its electrical resonance, what you have to understand is the connectivity between those two. And I live here in Nashville with Christina, and we've got one of the largest radio towers in the country. It was actually one of the most important radio towers in the world. Even in World War II, they were using the antenna that literally is about 5 miles from us right now. That this antenna sitting here off of Concord Road in Brentwood, Tennessee, was actually sending signals to Germany. They were using this radio tower to communicate in Europe, right? So when you look at that radio tower, right, that was sending and receiving signals. So as you talk about, when you look at what's going on with the planet and what we are a biological antenna. But here's the question. Are you made, like you said, are you made to receive the signals that our creator created for us to receive? Or maybe at the same time, has a few different little receivers been put inside you that are receiving those negative signals, those negative frequencies that
Mm.
are not biologically intended for us to receive? Now, would it not be interesting that two of those would be so very well proven because they use them to make antennas,
Interesting.
that you would know this? And that would be aluminum and mercury. And
Right.
would it
So,
not make sense that you shouldn't put those in a microwave, because the electromagnetic waves that are found in a microwave cause those metals to heat up and cause chaos? Would it not be interesting to also know that biologically, a law of physics states that water, especially salt water, actually blocks EMFs? So because we are a liquid crystalline matrix, that we're 72% water, 17% silica, and a mixture of other components, living in an environment that is 70% water, 17% silica, and a mixture of other components. So you go, wow, that's really unique. That seems divine. So if we live in a liquid, we are literally a liquid crystalline matrix. And if we're made the way that we were created, that means that outside negative electromagnetic frequencies don't affect the operating system. The only way that you can have disruption, the only way that you can have dysbiosis that creates the inflammatory cascade, the cytokine storm that allows the proliferation of fungus, that allows the proliferation of bacteria, that allows the proliferation of viruses, that allows the proliferation of parasites, is because you're not cleaning up your tower.
it's true. You have to.
Yes.
And
Constantly. We were taught as kids,
yeah.
probably you more than me, because you were born in a land that is more sophisticated than America.
Well, I'll tell you
Right.
something. It's very
You
corrupt.
got,
I mean, this
no,
land
but
of
you
the
know how to clean your room. Your parents told you to make your bed. I guarantee it.
they did, yeah.
And so did mine. I just wasn't very good at it. But that's the point. You have to clean your room, you have to make your bed every day, right? Better every day. That's our process. We haven't been doing that for a long time. We've become a victim of our environment because we haven't understood who we are.
So
So
you
that
know,
we're there.
it's funny when you talk about mercury and aluminium and stuff like that because there's a narrative, and I want to be careful because we're on YouTube, so we're not making any claims. This is for entertainment purposes and educational
Look
purposes
at both
only.
of us. We are both here for entertainment purposes. I mean, here.
I just want to say that for YouTube to do your own research and everything. But heavy metals in the body, what I heard, and the reason why they want it in our bodies is because they install frequency, special frequency broadcast signal into the etheric field and the towers, which is connecting to the body that has an impact on the hive mind consciousness that connects you, that can control your emotions. But when you anchor yourself in presence and awareness, it dissolves those structures. You become unhookable. And this is what Jesus was teaching, presence and stillness, but they twisted his word into, that you got to worship Jesus and you got to follow Jesus. No, we need to remember his message because the Christ consciousness is within us when we remember that we are source embodied. Sorry, Clay, that's what I
Oh,
wanted to say.
and you're dead on. And it's understanding that if we know that our environment has been poisoned and it's been manipulated, and we are a byproduct of our environment, that means we've been poisoned and manipulated. So when you become aware of this process, the first thing you have to do is understand how to clean it up. And the same mechanism that our divine creator created in this environment, in the process of creation, is the foundational key to actually cleaning it up. But we needed a bioscience engineer that has one, the sole purpose to be here to do it, but also the understanding and knowledge. And this is something I've worked on for 20 plus years, and that she's worked on in different aspects of biotech for about the same time frame, but understood how to take this amazing crystal, the literal most powerful crystal on the planet,
Mm-hmm.
that is so beautiful because it's the ugly one, but it's what was put here to clean up the environment, but it also happens to be the same crystal that is the primary source of orthosilicic acid, or bioavailable silica, not silicon dioxide, right? We have to use that term silicon dioxide on the label for clean slate to explain on a label what's in a package versus trying to explain scientifically, okay, this is what bioscience engineering looks like, that you're taking nature's source of orthosilicic acid and bioavailable silica and delivering it, in a mechanism of what nature created, but programming it using love, using intention, using, the frequencies of programming that have been used in biotech for a long time, by the way. Right? This whole understanding of frequencies and stuff that people are talking about in the lay public, this has been known for a long freaking time. It just hasn't been publicly used. And here's one of the real easy examples, because Christina actually worked on this when she was at Pfizer. Viagra uses sildenafil, right? That's the primary ingredient to make Viagra. Generic sildenafil and Viagra, they allegedly use the same ingredient, right? There's a difference in quality from what you're going to get in a generic versus what you're getting in what they're making. But the programming of each pill, literal programming, is what's going into that separates the difference. It's not just, oh, we're compressing this with a little clinoptilolite powder and sildenafil and making this pill. It's like, no, there's programming that goes into it, because they know that they can program pharmaceuticals the same way that we can program nature. The same reason that prayer is so powerful in what we're capable of doing, that collectively, when you have a population of people putting the same intention into a purpose, you're going to get that desired outcome, because energetically and spiritually, that's what we're capable of doing. The key is we've got to unlock this and amplify our ability to function. And that's where we sit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, absolutely, and this is it, because all of these things are in our bodies. It affects your toroidal field, which is your ability to have clarity in your connectivity, which prevents awakening. And how do we clear the body? Because we have to have a good, clean body. We have to detoxify the pineal gland, the body, the blood, with clean slate. And I want to
It,
share this with the viewers. It's the link is in the description below of this video. The clean slate, the Trinity. This decalcifies the pineal gland. It cleans the blood from heavy metals. And when it's spoken in ancient texts that your body is a temple. It's a temple in the sense that you embody source awareness within it. And when your body is clean and stress-free, you connect to your intuition a lot better, a lot with clear clarity. What do you think about that, Clay?
well, I think is there intention in this world? Is there symbolism? Yes. So when we look at clean slate is one piece. When we launched Root 6 years ago, it was an understanding. The first two products that we introduced into the market were clean slate and zero in, and that was intentionally because it goes back to everything that you're talking about because of the connectivity of the vagus nerve, right? That people want to talk about one piece, right? But this operating system is so complex. If we're talking cars, right, and we like performance vehicles. I like big, highly performing trucks. Some people like sports cars. But if you're talking about either one, you're like, we have this amazing steering wheel. I'm like, no, 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 no. I don't care about a steering wheel. I actually want to look at the entire vehicle. Right. So if we look at the human body for how it functions, you've got the engine, right? You got your gut, which also has a gas tank to it because you have to fuel the gas tank that runs the engine. The engine is going to feed information to your heart, to your pineal gland, to your brain, through your vagus nerve. That's the communication pathway. So the detoxification process, that's a term that died in 2025. We don't talk detoxification. We stopped really talking about it at the beginning of 2025 because Christina wrote a book on remediation, on remediating the air, the water, the soil, and people, and
Mm-hmm.
pets and the planet. Because when we look at environmental remediation, if you have an environmental event, and you could look at things that happen in Ukraine, you could look at things that happen in Japan. So you've got Chernobyl, you've got Fukushima. We'll just use two radioactive events. The fallout from those affected the entire planet, right? So what you have to look at is not just detoxification, because the Pacific Ocean is completely destroyed. The biosphere of the Pacific Ocean is destroyed because of what happened in Fukushima. And Christina's been to Chernobyl. We were talking about this last week. She's like, yeah, the interesting part in Chernobyl is roses that are growing in Chernobyl right now have thorns on the petals
Why is this?
because of the fallout and what that radiation does. And they tried to clean up the environment, right? But the fallout of that exposure has caused genetic manipulation in every aspect of biology in that environment. But here's the crazy part. That which goes up comes down because we have a stratosphere, right? We live in a dome. So things don't leave this environment. We know that energy is never lost. It is always transferred. It's constantly moving. So that which came from that event has actually gone all over the world. And we've seen changes over the last 40 or so years that have taken place in our biology that you go, things are a little bit different. Maybe we have been nuked. We're seeing these mutations. We're seeing cancers of different kinds. And you add these things with heavy metals and glyphosate because it's not one thing that's causing this problem. That our biosphere, our gut, has a level of dysbiosis that we've never seen before. And it would be amazing to have a wife or a scientist that actually is working on the Human Genome Project, where they're studying the gut and looking at why there's been a 70% increase in colon cancer in women under the age of 40 in the last 4 years. These things statistically don't make sense. So you have to understand that we can't just talk about one thing. You can't just talk about your pineal gland. You can't talk about fluoride. It's like we have to decalcify your pineal gland. Well, your pineal gland is actually loaded with little crystals on the inside because it's a resonator for light, and it's converting those signals and those frequencies into different things. But your pineal gland is connected to your gut through your vagus nerve. And the
Right.
key part to this happens to be neurotransmission, right? Because those are the communication pathways. And what are these two neurotransmitters that are so powerful? That would be dopamine and serotonin. Well, where do you get dopamine and serotonin? You get roughly 10% from your brain and outside stimuli, which is why people are being overstimulated to control your dopamine production. But your gut produces 90% of them. So then if you want your pineal gland to function the way it's supposed to, and here's the cool part, without doing psychedelics and mushrooms, how you do this right. Your gut produces 90% of the dopamine and serotonin, which means you got to clean up your gut. You got to allow it to heal, seal. And this is where restore is so crucial because it restores your gut, decreases that leaky gut. And we'll get into pathways and published clinical case studies and patents behind dealing with some of these issues that we'll talk about here in a second. I'll give you links to it so we can post it in the chat. You got to take care of the gut. You got to heal the gut, right? And that comes in many different aspects. Then you got to feed it. And this is why zero in is so important in this equation, because zero in feeds the gut what it needs. It's the fuel, it's the gas to allow the gut to produce endogenous, which is my word of 2026. If I can teach everybody what this word means, it will be glorious. Endogenous means naturally produced. So endogenous production of dopamine and serotonin takes place here. Then the signaling mechanisms of those neurotransmitters, based on your soul, your intention, telling your brain what it wants, your gut is going to produce, if it has the ability to do so, dopamine and serotonin based on demand. Serotonin and dopamine, specifically serotonin, will go to your pineal gland. Your pineal gland will convert serotonin into melatonin and DMT. So if you want to meditate, you want to relax, you're going to have an increase in serotonin, and you're going to be able to intentionally, you might not understand exactly what you're doing, but if you put the intention into it and you have the mechanisms, you're going to have much greater outcomes because you know what you're doing. But that serotonin conversion to melatonin and DMT can help you during the day if you want to relax, you want to do some things. But at night, it's going to allow you to get into deep REM sleep, which activates your glymphatic system, which is what allows your brain to detoxify itself endogenously, naturally, with a little assistance from a little clean slate or clean spirits, which is also working through that fluid. And when you wake up in the morning, one, you're deeply rested because you actually got into deep REM sleep and your glymphatic system is working properly. And then in the morning, you get a dopamine kick because your gut has the ability to produce that dopamine. So at night, more serotonin, morning, more dopamine. You wake up ready to roll and you're ready to have fun. But the other side is during the day. If you're writing, if you're studying, if you're working, if you're a mom and you got 27 things to do in the morning and you got to take care of the kids, you got to take care of your spouse, you've got to take care of all of these other things, and you've got to organize them. You got to make sure that everything is completed in a process that doesn't drive you nuts and doesn't stress you out. That increase in dopamine and serotonin allows you to control it, but it also makes everything fun.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're doing sports, you won't suck, you won't fatigue, you'll perform better, you'll perform longer, you'll be stronger, you'll be quicker. These things we actually have proven and published clinically. 40 to 50% improvements in reaction time and quickness in world champion, world record holding athletes in 2 weeks. So that's not, oh, I'm talking theory. We published and proved that 5 years ago, right? So then if you also look at the aspect of if you've had things and you elected to have things injected into you that actually might not have been biologically beneficial to you, the ability to remove those things and allow the body to recover and adapt might lead to eliminating the symptomology that came from those things. Did you know that last week one of our favorite companies that is not an American company, they're in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
This company is called Bayer. Hold on, did you ever think that we were going to take Bayer's side in an argument? Right, this is interesting, right? Bayer acquired Monsanto, right, which has billions and billions of dollars in liability based on the court findings in the United States for the damages that Monsanto has done with the introduction of glyphosate in 1976. Here's the craziest part. Last week, Bayer filed suit against Moderna and Pfizer for what they did for introducing a, a technology, an injection that had been used and studied going back to the 1980s, that through all aspects of clinical trial in every area where they tried to do it showed the negative outcomes of death. And it had never been approved. But then 6 years ago, they got a little warp speed approach to putting it into a campaign to just require everybody to use it. And maybe they committed more genocide than what Monsanto has to carry with glyphosate. Bayer filed suit against those two because they have all the data of the research that was going back into the 1980s and filed suit against them for damages. So get this, Bayer's on the hook for all of this glyphosate. They're suing Pfizer and Moderna for damages for what they did. They're going to recoup their costs for what they did with glyphosate or their acquisition of Monsanto for glyphosate. But they know what the other two did. So they're suing them. They're going to cover their costs for damages of one poison because of what the other two did to poison people worse than what they did. Holy shnikes, what world are we living in here?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
And this is the key, is if you're not being diligent to take care of yourself. But here's the important part to understand in this game. We live in an ecosystem that is so complex. You have to be a bioscience engineer in order to understand its complexity, to truly appreciate. Like, we talk pineal gland. 99.999% of people can't even comprehend what that little thing is, that this little gland that sits right below your brain gets more blood flow than every organ except your kidneys, which filter everything. So you go, why would that be? And so there's really no comprehension, but we're starting to talk about the pineal gland. People are like, oh my God, the pineal gland's amazing. Okay, how does it connect to everything? And we have this entire industry, this health and wellness industry, this biohacking industry, that you have people that have no acumen, no knowledge, that are talking about one ingredient, or they're talking about one product. And then consumers find one product from one place and they hear another thing, or they have a friend tell them about something, or they research something. So they go to another company and they're like, well, I heard I need this. So they're going to go buy something else here. And then they find another company and they're going to go over here and they're going to buy that. And they don't understand pharmacokinetics. So they don't understand how the body is going to work with all of those things that they just purchased. And there's no research to show that any of those things would actually work together. Could they be counterproductive? Because whether something is synthetically produced, pharmaceutical, right? We can call it that, or nutraceutical, or just a supplement. If you don't understand that biologics are natural and synthetic, and putting them together is going to have an impact on this operating system. And if you don't know how all of these pieces fit together and how the signaling from one thing can affect the signaling from another, and if you're using things that aren't already connected, that aren't strategically formulated to systemically work together to feed this operating system, and aren't already clinically proven, you are compromising yourself. So this is the big thing for 2026. It's like, look, you've become aware. Like you said, we are becoming aware. Now, if you want to upgrade, if you want to become awake, what you have to do is then find an expert that actually has the acumen. I mean, Christina's got a master's in science, 3 PhDs, a PsyD, an EDD, an MD, postdoc from Harvard in nanotechnology and bioscience engineering, 2 from Cornell, former adjunct professor in oncology and hematology at Johns Hopkins, 20 years in biotech. She was one of the first people in the country to have Lyme's disease. She's had more cancer than anyone can ever understand. She's lost a child to cancer, had another child who had cancer, and kicks ass, take names, chews bubblegum, not often, and has actually done this. And through this process, over the last 6 years, has filed for over 80 patents already on not just processes, but based on the protocols of using the Trinity, clean slate, zero in, restore, and some of its assistants, relive greens, give me back my youth, sculpt and crush. She's filed for patents on the mechanisms and protocols to address specific states: autism, ADD, ADHD, type 2 diabetes, long COVID, post COVID, dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS. So, how is she filing for patents on processes to, we'll say, remediate all of these issues? Because we have the published, proven clinical case studies that go along with those protocols that have already proven the outcomes. So if we were to talk ADD, ADHD, and autism, and we said, well, what do you do with kids that are nonverbal and have been nonverbal since they were like 1.5 or 2 years old? And it's like, well, you would do this protocol. And then you would ask, well, why would I do that protocol? So, well, the clinical case studies that we have across a pretty significant population of kids that have had those exact issues, if you follow these protocols, you're going to get these outcomes.
Yeah.
Those outcomes based on those protocols have allowed her to file for patents, because we can't make claims about treating things. But if you have clinical outcomes and clinical data, then you can file for intellectual property based on those outcomes. Now, the inverse to that is the same reason that Moderna and Pfizer pulled the first two original shots that were so popular back 5 years ago, that were a requirement. They pulled them from the market last year because they didn't want to show the data that was being done in the registries for tracking outcomes. So they voluntarily pulled them from the market. It's on the CDC's website. So they don't have to discuss what the outcomes were. And because of the Vaccine Injury Trust, they have no financial responsibility for the damages due to those shots.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Bayer took a little different approach and circled around and said, no. We'll handle this in court because we know what was going on back in the 80s, and you had all the data, and you took something that was known to have this side effect profile, going from all of these neurological issues, all of these cardiovascular issues, all of this death, right? Which is the majority of the outcomes across the board. And it just takes a little bit of time in order to get there. Some go quicker, some go later. And it's really weird what you're talking about, that we have these issues where some people are just disappearing.
Yes.
Right? They're like, well, what? Oh, why are they not here anymore? Maybe they had a bad Wednesday. Right?
Yeah.
And it's the understanding of these things that's like, look, we're no longer at the point where people that have no science background in bioscience engineering are trying to play doctor themselves in their own medicine cabinet and shopping on Amazon and shopping on all these different places. And they're trying to put stuff together. And most of these people don't even understand their own genetics, right? And this was one of the reasons that we introduced DRC-GX a couple of years ago. And it took a few years for us to develop the testing mechanism with our with our genetics lab to be able to provide an entire mechanism that will give people the opportunity to truly understand who they are. I'm not just talking about, MTHFR. It's a freaking joke, right? You need to understand you. You need the aspect of blood type. And I love the blog that you did on blood type being an O, an AB, an A, a B, right? And are you positive or negative, right? It's too much Zoom. Leave me alone.
No, it's good. It's good.
AI camera is going nuts. But the key in this is, like Christina, based on what you were writing, I sent her the article and said, hey, what do you think of this? And she wrote me back. She's like, yeah, it's mostly, that's pretty accurate. So you want the symbol in all this? She's an O-neg.
Yeah.
Go figure. But here's the crazy part. She was at Harvard studying nanotechnology and bioscience engineering, right? So if you talk to her, she'll tell you, oh yeah, O-negs are the ones that they're going to send to space. O-negs are the strongest. They're also the universal donor. They're the pure blood. they're the hunter gatherer, but they're also the purest of all of us and the strongest.
Yeah,
So when we do space travel, this when it goes back to the registry of what some families are tracking, and this is why it's really weird with what we're doing. Why these families, we'll just call it a group of 13, are are so focused on tracking these. Why is it that there's religions that are part of this system
yeah.
that have been so focused on doing family histories and tracking the genetic history and doing these blood banks and everything, so they've got data on everybody and they
They
know we
do.
want this one, we want this one, we want this one. This is the key to that.
They do. The reason for the genetic DNA that they're obsessed with is because certain humans hold special DNA blueprints that can, for a soul to incarnate. That's why the 13 blood family, the 13 groups, the families, they intermarry specific bloodlines so they can create or preserve a DNA blueprint, and prepare for a specific incarnation. And in this sense, for the 13 group family, this is a Draco incarnation, or a consciousness that's disconnected from source incarnation. Now there are other incarnations, souls, high frequency souls, kings, and from the past, where they come back and they're high frequency beings.
Kings and queens.
That's what I meant, kings and queens, yeah. And they come back, they incarnate and they do something else, but they're high frequency and they hunt them down, and that's why the DNA blueprint is so important. Yeah.
Follow me. Come
But
on.
Clay, yeah, it's not moving, is it? But Clay, listen, we're running out of time. I love speaking to you. You're full of knowledge, and again, I just want to let the viewers know to click on the link below for the Trinity, the clean slate, and also visit nvtvblogs.com where you'll love the blogs there. No one's doing them. A lot of it's to do with frequency, spirituality, and hidden knowledge. But check it out and let me know. But Clay, is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers quickly before we finish?
No, the one thing that you should do now is invest in yourself, but do it well. Right? Do what I've done, what you've done for years now, of use what's actually already clinically proven and scientifically and spiritually formulated to get the outcomes that you actually want.
Mhm.
That would start with the Trinity, or you could start with clean slate and zero in, and then play with it a little bit, but do one of those two things. It's life changing and life
Absolutely.
affirming.
Yeah, it is. I really love what Dr. Christina Ram is doing. I take the drops every single day. I'm onto it. I love it too. And this is why we do these shows, Clay. But anyway, thank you very much, Clay. And we'll speak again very soon. You take care and God bless. Bye
Cheers, brother.
bye.
God bless.